O'clock. I'll go ahead and call this May 9th, 2023 Town Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Greg Brewer,
Here.
Brian Burney,
Here.
Scott Jones,
Here.
Larry Longman,
Here.
Brandon Williams,
Here.
Paul Casey, Ron Kreider, Tim Gropp,
Here.
Mark Witzman,
Here.
Brian Crum, Greg Morlock.
Here.
All right, if y'all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item is the approval of our April 11th, 2023 Town Council minutes.
Move we approve.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve the April 11th minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Clerk Treasurer's report.
It's posted.
Any questions anybody has for our Clerk Treasurer?
No.
Okay. At this time, do we have any public comments for non-agenda items? Come on up, please. Mr. Morlock will swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm, under the penalties of perjury, the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
That's okay. And would you give us your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Tim McDaniel, McDaniel.
Right answer.
Great. You might want to have Google Maps open for this one. Good evening. There is a berm on the east side of Meyer between that neighborhood and the Austin Trace, Meyer and the Austin Trace neighborhood. There is a grassy path that someone is keeping mowed running between the end of West Irving Drive through along that berm and over into a lesser used part of the Meyer parking lot. This is actually great. It's great. I really like taking that on my way to go get groceries from Meyer. It's very convenient, but there's a problem, especially this time of year, because that is a grassy path. It is getting just enough traffic, especially by bikes, that it is degrading the grass on the path. And what's leaving instead is at the slope of the berm leading down to Meyer and at the turn leading into the neighborhood, it's just turning into mud. I was there just Saturday and on my bike and needing to navigate very carefully, because if someone is not careful during that part, then they are going to go over and into the bushes. So what would be very convenient, and it would probably also serve that entire community that would otherwise need to get in their car and drive about a mile instead of just walking about 200 feet, is if some sort of improvement could be made to that path. The expensive option would probably be paving it, turning into a miniature bike path for all about 100 feet of the path that there is. More inexpensive options would probably be some sort of crushed gravel. There's a famous trail in Missouri, I believe, called the Katy Trail that isn't 200 miles of just crushed gravel that is very cheap to maintain. Something along those lines would make this more approachable.
So,
It would be-
can I just stop you just so we're clear? We're all looking at the map. Is this on the east side of the Meyer?
Did I say west? I meant to say east, yes.
Okay, so between Gateway Crossing neighborhood, if you could pull that.
I
Is it
think
Austin Trace?
I think
Okay.
Gateway Crossing, Gateway neighborhood is just the apartment complex there.
All right,
And-
so there's a path that looks like it also.
Yeah, you can probably see
It's right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's. Thank you. I was looking. I was like, well, there's a huge retention pond there. So.
Yeah, there
to
is
the south.
Gap there's a gap in the sidewalk here,
Okay.
and then this area is an absolute mess. And it would improve the convenience and a little bit of the safety if a small improvement was made there.
Well, first of all, I don't think that's our.
It's not
It's not our property.
It's not our property to do
I
anything.
don't know who. I didn't know how to find out who reaches that. I wanted to come to you guys about improvement of infrastructure. Would you have a suggestion about who to reach out to about that?
That path that goes
We're
north.
talking about the one that goes, or the one that cuts, like.
You can
where the-
actually
Can you
see
go
it
north?
on
Can
regular.
we shift our view north a little bit, please?
Yeah, we can go north.
You can see the entire thing. You can see that it curves off, it goes through the trees here, and ends up here in the parking lot.
I mean, that's all private property.
Yeah.
Who do you have a guess at who would own that? Who could I reach out to about that?
Yes.
The north-south piece right here, that my cursor is showing,
Yes.
That's part of the Gateway Crossing subdivision HOA land common area, so they own that. And then if the piece that apparently runs through the woods here, that would be Myers' property.
Okay.
So I'd reach out to the store manager, Meyer, and talk to them about that.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
The reason why that path is clear, it's from a sanitary sewer
Okay.
that was extended through there. So it was, all the trees were cleared for that construction.
Well, then I also know people will definitely go down West Irving on foot and just go straight across.
Straight across.
Yep.
That's what we thought
Like
he
where
was
that little dark
mentioning.
stripe is of trees, like they will
Yeah.
just cut straight through there to get.
And that's
through.
right on the Meyer property line as well.
So is that an extra home lot there on the end too, where that thing starts?
It's,
Parcel.
I think it probably was intended to be one at someday, but it never got built, and now it's owned by the HOA.
All
It
right.
could be a spot for a little pocket park or something.
Which HOA owns that?
Austin Trace.
That's awesome. Trees and behind it's Gateway.
Okay. Before we go to our next item, we will, when we get to old business or new business, if there's somebody in the audience that has, wants to speak on that agenda item, please raise your hand. If it's not a public hearing portion of it, we will get to you. So the next item is Zoe's Place Child Advocacy. I got Katie Molinder, who's the new executive director. Just so you guys know, I am a board member of Zoe's Place, and we recently, I believe April 17th was Katie's first day as the executive director. And one of the things she's doing right now is going around to all the municipalities and basically educating everyone on what Zoe's Place is, what the benefit is to the county, and also the funding needs that they have. So with that, no, Greg, do you need to swear in?
Swear
Okay.
Yep. Swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, if you'll give us your name and spell your last name for the record.
Katie
please.
Molinder, last name's Molinder. Thanks, Greg. Good evening, gentlemen. As Greg said, I started on April 17th at Zoe's Place Child Advocacy Center, so I wanted to come and introduce myself. We serve all the residents of Hancock County, and as your town is in Hancock County, wanted to come and inform you about what we're doing over there in Greenfield. So a child advocacy center is a place where kids disclose their abuse and neglect. So when kids give an initial disclosure, typically previously maybe they would be interviewed by law enforcement or interviewed by DCS, and after years of research and lots of, I guess, different studies, we've seen that many times we don't know how kids feel, what their background is, what they've been told about whatever situation they're in. So being interviewed by law enforcement with gun on a hip, or like in a law enforcement building, or maybe DCS, we don't talk to those people kind of thing. Zoe's Place is located in a house, downtown Greenfield. You walk in, it looks like a living room. I'm dressed up today, but we all usually look very casual. And we are trained forensic interviewers, so we interview kids in an effort to not lead them into any answers. There's a lot of different developmental stages that children are in, and different ways that they would respond that previously might have been seen as mismatched stories or not understanding what they're saying. Maybe they don't remember, they're fabricated, but a lot of that can be because of the questioning and the way that the questions are framed. So we let kids tell what has happened to them in their own words. And then in a separate room, there's law enforcement, DCS, prosecutor's office, advocacy for the child, and they're all watching the interview. And so the idea, this model was actually created by a prosecutor. The idea is that everybody's there discussing, staffing, going over the case, so that we can, as the interview unfolds, they can begin the investigation. They can all talk together. They can talk about where this could go, what more do we need for the investigation. And then the interview's mic'd in, so if maybe they need some more information, maybe tell me more about what you said about this, or tell me more. There's a lot of tell me more, a lot of open-ended questions. So again, the child, then we hopefully hope that they're only disclosing this traumatic event one time. So they leave the interview, and then it's the wraparound part. We're going in and really working towards servicing them as far as mental health services, maybe any medical services that are needed. We're also helping and supporting the family, because after that disclosure, we hope that this is the only time they have to talk about it, but they're obviously going to be working through it for the foreseeable future, and who is providing that support for the family. So Zoe's Place steps in to do that. So we've been open for 3 years. We opened in January of the pandemic. So I would say in 2022, we had around a little over 150 cases that we saw in 2022. 15% of those cases were actually from McCourtsville. So 15% of the cases that we saw last year at Zoe's Place were McCourtsville kids. I cross-referenced McCourtsville addresses with Mount Vernon schools, and the results were very similar, just so that I could see, is it address versus school system. This year, we are on track to see many more than 150 kids. We are above 60 so far, and we have 4 interviews scheduled already this week. So that is actually a very high number. While it's a high number, it's not higher than what we have as far as the population of Hancock County. So while it's exciting for me to see more kids come in, that isn't because more kids are being abused or more kids are being neglected. That's because more service providers know about Zoe's Place. So Zoe's Place is a place, and more people are getting these kids in, and we're able to service them and make sure that they're getting those wraparound services, and they're hopefully getting the justice that they deserve. I can tell you we had a case review today on a case where that started at Zoe's Place, and we were able to collect physical evidence based on the interview, and the case was charged. And we discussed in that case review today that had we not collected that physical evidence, we know that the charges would have been misdemeanor and they wouldn't have been felonies. So it was based on that, the team working together, that they were able to charge that case. So we're very excited about that. We do have a lot of big things that are happening at Zoe's Place. While Greg explained, I'm going around and I'm just asking for funding support from the different municipalities. We've received funding from Hancock County since the very beginning. They've had us in our budget as far as helping to fund us. Greenfield, New Palestine, a lot of the ones on the west and south side. So I wanted to come up here. We're definitely making more of an effort to try to be countywide and get us out there and raise our awareness. So obviously introduce myself to you, let us know what we're doing, and ask you to consider us in the future for support with funding. We have some big things coming up. We're looking to get new equipment. Every single CAC, Child Advocacy Center in Indiana, has what's called iRecord, except for us. I think there's 2, us and another one. We have a very, very decent recording system right now, but it is not ideal, and that recording is the biggest form of evidence that we have for the kid in the investigation. So we want to make sure that those recordings are good, and we're talking tens of thousands of dollars for that recording equipment. We're also looking to hopefully move very soon in the future. We're growing. We want to provide a lot more advocacy. I've written a grant for mental health money to bring in, actually pay therapists and not just refer out, but actually be able to provide therapy for those high trauma kids. So we are looking for a larger space. So we do have some upcoming financial needs. So I'm just asking if you have any questions, and if not, hopefully you will consider us for funding support in the future.
Anybody? I know all the information, so I have no questions. Go ahead, Dr. Burke.
What's your most, oh, sorry.
Dr. Burke raised his hand first.
Katie, have you had a chance to review the list of opioid remediation uses?
I have not, no.
Here's like the list from the final agreement. We do have some opioid remediation funds that we've already received. There's one particular section in here, rather than you looking through the whole thing, that I thought might be a fit for Zoe's Place. It's Section E in the final agreement, page E9, to address the needs of pregnant or parenting women and their families, including babies with neonatal abstinence syndrome, which is a withdrawal from opioid thing. One particular thing in here is provide training for obstetricians or other healthcare personnel who work with pregnant women and their families regarding treatment of opioids and any concurring substance abuse mental health conditions. I'm sure some of your children probably fit in that category.
Well, I will say, while that's very exciting that they're giving money
Well,
for that.
Where I'm coming from is we have restricted funds and unrestricted
Right.
funds. If we fit a slot, then restricted funds, I think, can be used. Correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie.
Well, we have, there's another presentation later this evening, Dr. Brink, regarding those opioid settlement funds.
It'll be along the same line,
Yeah.
I think, perhaps.
Maybe. So, Chief Casey, in the past, has the police department,
Well, when Zoe's Place first started, there was a big presentation, and then Sergeant Boyd, now Captain, came in, and there was a presentation, I think all the cities and towns, and all Lincoln County gave roughly the same amount of money when we first got going, under a very similar presentation about, at that time, getting a facility, and about that time, paying for body worn, some of those types of things. Right now, I think that I would like to really dig into those numbers and find out what those numbers are. I know sometimes McCordsville gets lumped all the way down into 70, so I'd like to understand those percentages and what's been presented tonight. I think it's a absolutely needed and worthwhile program in the county, something we have to have. I'm just curious about what the other towns and cities are doing and how that looks financially for everybody involved.
yeah, I'm not really sure what, I think New Pal in the past has been around $1,500, $2,000 in that area, so
Yes.
I think
Recall the students, something like that.
yeah, so I mean, I think the key thing, and I'll just be on it, I mean, the challenge that we face, there's only so much that VOCA and DCS will pay towards salaries, and rest of the operational expenses and even part of the rest of the salaries for a forensic interviewer and even an executive have to come from other sources. So we're only getting about right around close to 80% of the salaries covered by the federal and state government. So it's that other 20% plus then you have to worry about operational and, there's electric and rent and all those other things. So I think they do a really good job. I will give Katie a lot of credit. They do a lot of fundraisers, but sometimes those aren't enough when you have to, because those are very expensive to run. So I know you had a question, so.
My only question was, what's your most typical case that comes to Zoe's Place?
So I will say right now, recently, it's been a lot of internet crime. So internet, I would say we've had like a lot of sextortion cases, believe it or not, on children.
Okay.
And just people reaching out through the internet. Yes.
And that, you can turn that into, with a proper interviewing, can that be a felony?
I
it
do
just
not
depends
charge
on-
the cases. I'm
Yeah.
just
So,
the
I mean,
interviewer.
You turn them over to the prosecutor. but-
Yeah, they're there.
The answer on that is yes. It's very, very, very hard to prosecute that, depending on where the crime occurred
Yeah, sure.
because of the internet, right? So you could be literally talking overseas, or you could be talking to your next door neighbor. You got to find all that out before you can even get to the prosecutor, and then they get to choose venue areas.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it, Katie. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll consider 2024. We have some money for that.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks. Moving on, committee and staff reports. First up, Parks Board. It's got a list.
No, not too bad. Yeah, we met yesterday, so we did, the perpetual park impact fee. So we're really right there at the last minute. We had a few minor adjustments on some things, so we actually had, in the interim, a Zoom call for the advisory committee, and we got it down to the point where we're looking right around like $1,500-ish. So the final number that we were presented yesterday was $1,534. That will change a little bit based on some of the adjustments we're making based on the timeline. So the more you move the timeline, the more the numbers change. So do I need a action on that tonight, or are we still waiting on the final thing from Chuck?
No action tonight, more of an
Okay.
update. This will come to the Plan Commission next, where it will hold its statutory public hearing. That will be next Tuesday.
Okay.
And then it will come forward to the council for first reading and potential action in June.
Okay.
Oh, I'm asking him questions over here.
Nope, you're good. So, and then we talked about the 5K, which is coming up. 5K will be August 19th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, and we approved an invoice for the company that did it for us last year. They're going to pretty much spearhead it for us. They're going to do the timing, they're going to do the lane, they're going to review the path, all of that stuff. So that is in the works. The same night we are going to do.
Have you guys met with the police department, and is Paul okay with road closures and so forth? He's not paying any attention.
I think that's yes. He didn't say no, so that means yes.
We don't have a new route yet, but I think that I think that the thing Tim and I have talked about, we're maybe changing that.
Yeah, actually, part of the contract, because we used this group a little bit last year. We're using them fully to manage the course, and they're actually going to look at rerouting the course a little bit. So we're hoping we don't have as many concerning crossings across 600 or anything. So we'll see what the new route is.
Okay.
And it wasn't a
Good.
true 5K last year, so
Oh.
we'll make it a.
I
true
moved the
5K.
starting line a little bit forward, my mistake.
Oh.
And everyone with their little monitors caught me on it, so.
Yeah, you don't mess with the runners, Tim. You don't.
Oh,
No, you don't.
Yep, so he's found out. So the same night though, we're gonna have the party in this area here. So
Okay.
we'll have some axe throwing, we'll have food trucks, we'll have a DJ, we'll have, well, I mean, it's been proposed.
Have we
Oh, it's
talked-
happening.
Have we talked to our insurance company?
Yeah,
They
it's
Okay,
fine.
we're covered for
So
that?
the
Nikki was
provider provides
adamant.
the insurance,
Oh,
so
okay.
we are not liable
All
for
right.
anything that happens. Outdoor movie, DJ, inflatables, all that kind of
Wow.
stuff. And then we had the event this weekend with Friday and Saturday with Crew Car Wash, where if you bought the Ultimate Wash and made a donation to the Building a Brighter McCordsville Fund, you got the free Ultimate Wash.
Thank
So we don't have the final numbers on that yet, but turnout seems to have been great over the weekend. So we'll really put some money in that account.
Thank you for Dr. Burney. I went out there for about an hour at noon, and Dr. Burney had already been out there for about an hour handing out these flyers, and then, yeah, all that, they'll write a check and it'll be deposited into the Building Brighter McCordsville Fund
Yeah.
and help build that fund up for future park improvements.
That's about it.
Okay,
Can I ask my question again?
yes.
Okay. The park impact fee is $15.34 a unit as proposed, or still working through that dynamic. What's a commercial user pay? Is it similar to like sewer EDUs? Is there some type of calculation?
Commercial user pays $0.
Mm-hmm.
Zero. It's just-
Yeah, they don't produce need or demand for parks.
Okay.
So, as we're also working through a road impact fee, I know we're a little off topic, but as we work through that process, both residential and commercial pay road impact fees.
So, and then we still have, so we did have the option of doing like multifamily dwelling, single unit dwelling, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. We decided not to go that route.
Okay.
But we also have the impact board that if somebody wants to make an appeal, that they can select the, in Gateway Crossing, do you remember, so we had the appeal for them, and then I think we took it from 100% to 80% or something.
Yeah, I
to
think it
that
was a
effect.
10%
It
reduction.
was a 10% reduction,
Good.
so we're not increasing it annually based on inflation, but we're also not basing it off the individual property.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Vernon Township Fire Committee, we have not, no, redevelopment commission, I'm sorry, yeah, well, you know.
Already been.
part-
I might as well walk out.
Well, you kept talking, I thought you were talking. Redevelopment commission, sorry.
Okay, so redevelopment commission, we did meet last week and approved a couple invoices. I think the big matter was a presentation by the township. Vernon Township Fire came in and talked about the need for a ladder truck. Lots of questions were asked. I think the good intention is that it would lower our ISO rating from an insurable point of view. I don't think anybody understood what that meant though, and quantity. You know, would it lower your insurance rating by $100 a year, $100 a month? No one really knew. So I think there are a lot of questions that have to be answered there. And then we also had a lot of questions about how often a aerial truck was needed.
Yeah.
It sounded like it was very infrequent right now. However, with McCord Square, downtown Fortville, some of the area development not just in this town, but in the township, there's a forecast for a need in the future, but there was no action taken on any of that. It was just a presentation. I think that's, I should also say we talked about acquiring some needed property for a driveway for the for the police station in McCord Square. We had a couple of appraisals come in. I don't know if those an offer ended up going out or not yet.
The offer is out. I haven't gotten official acceptance back, but we had a conversation today, and it looks like we're on the right track.
Okay, good. That's it.
All right, so now Vernon Township Fire Committee kind of piggyback. That's why I was in there. I forgot the ladder truck was part of that. So tomorrow night there'll be a kind of a walkthrough. I think I believe everybody's been invited to that. Or it should have been tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Kind of see the new fire station. Kind of piggybacking on the ladder truck. There's been this council's probably going to have to maybe revisit eventually maybe what kind of role we want to have with the Vernon Township Fire Territory, meaning that that presentation was not sanctioned or sponsored by the fire board themselves. That was done without prior approval by the board, and we'll have to look at how that organization is being run in terms of, are we a partnership or are we actually turning over a whole 100% authority to our trustees? So there might be something we have to talk about relooking at interlocal and how the interlocal currently impacts us, and how we, we are the majority funder of the fire territory. The town of Cordsville is. So, so there'll be some more, in-depth discussions going forward, but those will be brought up at the next meeting. If there's not movement, don't be surprised there's some recommendations to this council on some different ideas for us in terms of working with the township. So with that, we have the next couple steps will be if you want to attend next Wednesday's meeting at 7 o'clock, there'll be the introductory of the Township Fire Territory budget, and then that'll be making its rounds through us, Fortville, and the Vernon Township Board. So that's the next big step going forward. With that, Public Works.
Public Works was a very short meeting. There's a couple of invoices that are on the consent agenda this evening just because it surpassed the $5,000 mark. Well, it was $5,050, but it was for chemicals. There was more in-depth conversation with Mr. Chester's sewer request, and I know Mark is working heavily on coming up with a solution that works for him and gets done in a timely manner. Dr. Bernie's actually given some fantastic feedback and input into a solution there as well.
Mark, what is your timeline for that, do you think?
I've got contractors out looking at that right now. They had utility locates called in, so we're waiting for those to get in, and I think they're mostly in. So we're trying to confirm routes, potential routes for the line. So I expect we'll have I'll have probably a memo written up that I'll share to council probably in the next week or two.
So I know we talked to him last time in April. Is that going to need council approval?
Yes.
Okay, so is that something that you feel will be done before the next council meeting that we might need to have an executive session on, or is this going to probably fall into our June meeting?
I'm not positive right now. I'll give it, when I put together the memo kind of outlining steps, I'll leave it to you to, on how you want to, if you want to accelerate and meet to discuss or approve a plan.
Okay.
But I'll have something to you probably.
Does that will that need to go back to Public Works first and then to us?
It doesn't have to.
Okay.
Council we could go direct to council there. I think there's enough urgency that's justified.
Okay. Thanks.
And then the other thing is the Burke contract renewal. Mark, you said that when we were in Public Works, we were recommended that for council for approval, but there was some clarification that you were getting from him.
I believe it was comments on.
It was things that I wanted, but I got them. Ron sent a
Okay.
revised version to me.
Perfect.
So what you have tonight is fine.
Perfect.
Anything else in Public Works?
Nope, that's all for me.
Dr. Burney, Architectural Review?
Architectural Review met on Tuesday, April 18th. There was only really one thing on the agenda. It was request for approval of a home design on lots 13 and 14 in Hampton Cove, which is a small northwest sliver of McCordsville that is Geist waterfront. So it was a lovely home plan and plot plan, and we approved it.
Okay. All right. Plan Commission?
Plan Commission met on Tuesday, April 18th, following the Architectural Committee meeting. Business was Cityscape Residential's request for approval of a primary plat on around 26 acres at the southwest corner of County Road 600 West and County Road 600 North. And Plan Commission approved that request. We also had Olthoff's Homes request for approval of a primary plat for 127 lots on around 48 acres located along the south side of County Road 900 North, approximately 1/2 mile east of County Road 600 West. After considerable discussion and hearing from some members of the public, we approved that request. There is one private residence there that's kind of surrounded on 3 sides by the development. And I think, Greg, you had some conversation with the property owner there, and it seemed like we could have the developer and the property owners work out their problems between his residence and the subdivision.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to say anything about that or
No,
not.
I mean, Mr. Plank came, and I think he's just looking at possibility of annexation in, since he's being surrounded. They're on 900, but again, he was just looking into that, and what the possibility, and then I think they did, there was some sewer line questions that were resolved with that. So,
And we had a plan commissioner order for the Cityscape Economic Development Area, which the plan commission approved.
okay. Thank you, Dr. Burney. All right, moving on, we have a consent agenda. At this time, any council member want more clarification on any items or one removed from the consent to talk individually about?
No, sir.
Okay. That, the chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
There's been a first and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, moving on to,
Let me get a quick update. I don't have a committee report, so I just want to.
sure.
I just want to let everybody know that Ms. Glasgow and Mr. Carnes passed their perfect exams that have been sent to the state for review. The pension board meeting was had last week. Everybody's aware at this point about the incident school on Friday and the edibles. We have meetings for the PD building on the 16th and 17th. The 16th is the gym. The 17th is actually an all-day meeting to go over finals, hopefully finals items. Make sure I'm mic'd here. Okay. Final items for the PD. We were contacted also, Run for the Fallen is going to happen on 5/14, which is Sunday. I'm getting some conflicting information, but I believe sometime between 9:30 and 10, and either at the Chevy dealership or at Family Express, they'll be making a stop. I've gotten 2 different things, so I'm not really sure. That's supposed to be between 9:30 and 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. So anybody who has an interest in being in and around that area at that time, Run for the Fallen will be coming through town. Homes for Heroes has contacted us, and they are doing a home for a service member on 517. I am not going to give out the address, obviously. It happens to be the same day that I'm committed all day. So Sergeant Trejo, Major Bell, and Officer Carter, who are all veterans, are going to be there that day, along with Officer French, to be there during that event.
I think Dr. Burney, you said you're attending?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, so Dr. Burney will be there representing council.
So I just want to be aware of why I'm not going to be there, as I'm already committed that day. I didn't find out until after the fact. And then our community day is set for Friday, the 4th of August. So we'll be doing that same event that we do every year. We'll be having that here at the town hall.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, we need a public hearing on ordinance 041123. It's a second reading.
We need to recess the
Need a
council.
motion to recess?
I move we recess the council meeting and convene the public hearing on ordinance 41123.
Second. It's been a first and second. All those in favor of recessing council meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. Public hearing is now open. At this time, if anyone in the audience would like to come up and speak for, against, or no opinion whatsoever on the police station bond ordinance. Okay.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll reconvene the council meeting. Okay, so, counselors, anybody have any questions, concerns they want to discuss?
No, we just, Dr. Bernie and I just met on this at 5 o'clock today. We're hoping that the council finds it in the way to approve this. We're already committed.
Yep. My understanding is the bond bank came back with their rate locked in. Is that correct?
It was, oh, well, they had set it, I thought they had set it for the week. It was,
So the board.
yeah.
Probably should.
Yeah.
Yes.
And identify yourself,
Yeah.
but I don't have to swear you. in.
Okay. I'm Jennifer Hudson, and I work for London Witty Group
Right.
in Indianapolis.
And you're our financial consultant.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
the municipal advisor for the town, for the bonds. So the executive director, he emailed me yesterday when I asked him for the updated May rates, and he said that they will be confirmed tomorrow at the board meeting. So the rate will actually be set the month that we close.
Okay.
So if we close in June, then we'll have to wait for the June rate to come out, and then we'll know what that rate is.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it.
And so there were a couple changes from first reading to second reading, so we'll have to, is it a
To
motion?
amend? Yeah.
Motion to
Just
amend
gonna-
prior to
just
approval.
explain those.
Okay.
And that was based on feedback from the Indiana Bond Bank, as per how we were structuring the bond, so.
Okay.
Dennis Otten from Bose McKinney
Come
can
on up,
fill in
Dennis.
that better.
So is it relevant to the red lines in here?
The red line, yes. The red line version was the version you passed on first reading to show you what we actually changed, and none of it was, well, I'll let Dennis kind of explain better.
Hi. Good evening, council members. Dennis Otten with Bose McKinney and Evans. The comments that Tim mentioned came from the bond bank. The only comment I would say that was really material was we have in the ordinance the ability to use lit revenues to pay interest on the bands, and we had that on a subject to appropriation basis. And I don't want to get too technical, but the reason being just we didn't want to invoke the town's debt limit. But after further review, we can make that pledge without jeopardizing the town's debt limit. The bond bank had requested some additional security, and I think we sort of had some negotiations back and forth, and we sort of landed on, well, this was a fair compromise. We have the capacity to do it, and we can meet the parity requirements. So we did make that change. But the other changes are really just stylistic, if anything, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
So my understanding is a lot of this, our project's kind of a larger in funding source than they normally used to. They're normally doing equipment stuff. So is that kind of some of the reason why these changes or their hesitancy, I guess?
Well, I would say anytime I submit something to the bond bank, I get comments back.
Right, fair enough.
And I got to say, that's just attorneys being
That's right.
attorneys, I
That's right.
think, that they like to put their stamp on things. So I'll chalk up 80% of the comments to that. Which is fine. You know, we kind of expect that, but this other provision I do think was something that, given the size of this financing,
Yeah.
they were really trying to lock down as much as the funding as they could, and this was one that we could do.
The biggest issue, I mean, the change I've seen in the red lines is they just want to get rid of the bond anticipation of make it bans. I mean, there's not really much, I mean, literally there.
It's an acronym.
Yeah, so they want the acronym versus the actual wording. I mean, there's most of that.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah. And the one thing I noticed, they invoked the Indiana code 51414. Is that the parity? What's
Five,
that?
I actually put that in there, council member. 5114.4 is a statute there's sort of a general bonding statute, 5114, that has kind of a slew of general provisions to bonds.
Okay.
It's kind of like a toolbox for bond attorneys, I would say. It kind of gives you some neat things to do, but 5114.4 says that when the council makes a pledge of revenue, it is binding from when it's made without the need for any further filings. So you do not have to do a UCC financing statement or anything else to perfect it. The pledge is binding from when it's made. We don't have to put that in there, but I like to put that in there because it's basically saying this pledge is locked.
Yeah, okay.
I have a question for Greg to my right. As far as how we proceed here, most of the changes were substituting basically abbreviations for longer wording. Do we have something of substance here that is going to change the way we approach this? Do we have to go back and amend what we passed on first reading?
Yeah, my suggestion would be that you simply have a motion to amend 041123 as set forth in the red line version on the agenda, pass that, and then have a motion to approve ordinance 041123 as amended. Just a two-step process. Because there is some substantive things in there besides just the change from bond anticipation note to ban.
And we have to read them again too, right?
No, you don't. No, you can just if you make the motion in accordance with the red line, then that's sufficient.
Okay. So I move that we amend ordinance 041123, the police station bond ordinance, in accordance with the red line version of it attached.
Second.
There's been a first and a second to approve ordinance number 011123, red line version. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Okay, so this is ordinance 041123 on its passage as amended, an ordinance of the town of McCourtsville, Indiana, approving matters related to lease financing of a new police station project.
I move we approve ordinance 041123 as amended by the red line version.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 041123, the red line version. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Congratulations, Paul, you got a police station coming.
And Jennifer, myself, and a representative from Bose McKinney will be at the Indiana Bond Bank tomorrow, 11 o'clock, in front of their board requesting funding. So
Excellent.
Awesome. All right, we have another ordinance number 041123A, a second reading, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of taxable economic development revenue bonds, Series 2023, for the Broad Acre Apartments project. At this time, I'll open up for any public comments. Anybody who wants, favor, against?
I
Wants?
don't believe this is a public hearing.
Well, but we'll go ahead
Oh,
and
that's
give, give them a
okay,
chance to
okay.
say
I
it
just-
before we talk about it.
Yep.
Okay, counselors, any questions on the, this is a second reading, so we did discuss this last month. Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve ordinance
I need to-
04.
I need to read it by title, so.
I move we read ordinance.
It's on the second reading,
Zero.
so I don't have to have that motion.
Okay.
On second reading, I just have to read it by title. Ordinance
Okay.
number 041123A, ordinance authorizing the issuance of the town of McCourtsville, Indiana, taxable economic development revenue bonds, Series 2023, Broadacre Apartment Project, and the lending of the proceeds thereof to Archview Properties LLC, and authorizing and approving other actions in respect thereto.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 041123A.
I'll second that.
okay, there's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 041123A, bond authorization series 2023 Broadacre project. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, moving along here. Now we have the Morningside PUD. This will be a second reading as well.
Yeah, I quickly introduced this one. So this is second reading tonight. This came back after last month. You had a few changes you requested. So pages 8, 9, 10 and 22 essentially covers those changes, and they are redlined, although sometimes the iPads won't show the red lines. But the first change you requested on page 8 was in regards to, actually the petitioner requested was in regards to ground signage for the self-storage facility. So we wrote in some language that would allow the self-storage to have ground signage along Mount Comfort Road. Normally, a facility or a land user that's not on frontage would not get a sign. So that was something we specifically wrote into the PUD to allow that.
Okay.
And we simply stated that they needed to share sign space on another ground sign, so that we're not adding another sign to the frontage. We're getting a sign with at least 2 tenants on it.
Okay.
The second change was in regards to just kind of declaring where the construction entrance would be, which would be from Mount Comfort Road. And then third, that there be vehicular access from Mount Comfort Road back to District A prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy for that. And if you remember, District A is the single-family area.
Correct.
So we wanted to ensure that there was primary access point from Mount Comfort to that area so that people were not using Philadelphia as the primary access point. And then the last one was that all ground floor entries within District D would include weather protection in the form of an awning, canopy, or other structure or feature. So nothing overly complex or significant, but we have made those changes. And then petitioner's here tonight to, I don't know if they want to add anything, or that's all I have.
So once again, the process would be a motion, whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
A motion to amend as described by Ryan, and then a motion to pass as amended.
So remember our
Yeah, it needs to be added.
discussion points. That the original concern was the what we're going to see for the storage units. And I'm looking at the Exhibit D4, Ryan. I'm not sure if the PDF version is reconciled here. Can you pull this up? Because it looks like there's an elevation that got cut off in a rendered view.
Okay.
Maybe it shows the primary office building.
Here.
Yeah, and then keep scrolling down. Okay, that's actually cut off in the what I'm looking at on the iPad. So what are we seeing there? Is that the north elevation, east elevation? What is
North
that?
and east elevations, I forget which one is which, but essentially that concept of that style of facade would be on a portion of the east facade the east facade is not the office, would be that, and then all of the north facade of the facility. So the perimeter wall of the east and north.
I thought that was going to be brick. Is that not?
It's currently a combination of brick, stone, and is that ephes, the charcoal color?
Yeah.
I'd prefer it to be brick. If anybody get murdered around here for warehouses, it was me. Sure would like to see some brick there. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I gotta go back and look at it. Oh, sorry, Larry.
It's right there.
Yeah. My eyes are not that good.
Well, we discussed masonry versus ephes in the plan committee, and decided that the ephes ultimately would probably look better because of the contrast it provided, I think, if I recall correctly.
I don't recall if we discussed that or not. I apologize.
But the stuff in the foreground is like earth tones type stuff, gray stuff. Commercial buildings.
The commercial buildings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
On D3 there. And this would back up to it. I mean, you'd see it in the same sight line, right?
You would see it. This would be behind and probably a tad south of the commercial area.
Yeah, there's two different types of commercial buildings there, and both would be on site. One's more like your professional office building, and the other's more like your haircut place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This
Correct.
is more brick.
Yeah, and
This is
that's
brick. So this is more just.
and that's
I
cut
can't really
off.
see that. Yeah,
It's-
cut off. In the exhibit.
I'm afraid that will weather, especially on that, like a darker color versus like the grays up here. the earth tones probably work.
The charcoal color will fade.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever seen that? The efflorescence coming off of that?
It gets chalky looking.
Yeah.
Let me ask the petitioner, you have several buildings like this around the area?
We need him to come up. Would you come up?
Could
so
you
we
come
can
up and talk to us how EFS has done on those buildings and what your experience has been?
Let me swear you in, Mr. Warren. Do you swear or affirm as well as affirm to the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you'll give us your name and spell your last name, please.
Harold Mize, and it needs a little bit more brick to it. I'm not opposed to the top being that, but I think you're right.
Question again, so-
Can you,
Oh, boy.
the question here we're having is brick versus EFS, and we had this discussion, I think, before in the Plan Commission, and you had other facilities that had EFS on them, I
Yes.
think.
Yes.
And how long have they been in place, and how is the EFS done compared to the other exterior materials?
The life of both is about the same, really, because, I mean, we repaint our EFS about every 2 to 3 years, so it really keeps it fresh. But in designing it this way, we wanted to stay away from just a 160-foot long brick wall. That don't look good. It just,
Have you used this dark of a color before?
yes,
And it doesn't flash through and get chalky?
nope. Nope, actually, I've got it on 2 facilities in Greenfield. And one of them hasn't been painted in, I don't remember the last time we painted, but I was just over there day before yesterday, and it still looks good.
So it's not every 2 or 3 years?
And this is what side of the, I mean, because the interior buildings look good with the red doors and the brick. Where's this again? This is the back.
East and north perimeter walls.
This would be the east, that's the north.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
These are actually turned 90 degrees to Mount Comfort as positioned on the road, aren't they?
This would be parallel to Mount Comfort Road, and this would be 90 degrees.
That's right.
So this would set, and then the office would set right beside it.
And that other building with the peaked roof that kind of matches these is the office to go with the
Yeah.
storage units.
Okay, it would sit in front of there. Is it opaque all the way around?
It is brick all the way around.
Sorry, I mean is the perimeter a opaque wall all the way around? Even where you don't have, where it backs up to buildings? I'm looking at the south facade, for instance.
The south facade of the.
Is it
Oh,
of
that-
the storage units?
That is a fence.
It's fence, okay.
I think the
So you-
south and west both are fences, correct?
So you're seeing
Yes.
through there.
Yeah.
Is it fenced between the buildings then?
No.
That's okay.
Well, there's 3 of these buildings along the north side, and there's a
Yep.
fence between them.
Fence between,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
The
So
planning
you will
commission
see in
allowed
there.
us 24 feet between buildings.
So you'll be looking in there till commercial builds in front of it?
Because commercials were.
The commercial, I think, is going kind of north of it, isn't it?
It's mostly, it's north
East.
and east.
Yeah.
So,
But the commercial's by another party, right?
Yes.
correct.
And it'll probably be done last.
I would assume so. I assume they're gonna want customer base first. So they're gonna want those apartments and homes in.
And outlots seem to move last.
Yeah, agreed.
Is there something specific to that color tone you're
Yeah,
tied
it's
to?
the company colors.
Oh, it's a company, okay.
Like the red is kind of the theme. What's the name of it?
Red door storage.
Yeah, red door, red door storage.
Red door brick.
Okay.
That's my feedback, I guess. I'd like to see brick instead of the EFS. Just because we're gonna be looking at that primarily, I guess, on the east facade, because that won't be blocked for a while.
What color is the
You okay with
fence
the
in
red stripe,
between the
Larry?
buildings?
If the rest of it was brick? 2 red stripes.
Yeah.
I guess if it's part of the theme, then, yeah.
The
If there's,
fence is gonna be black in between the
Okay.
buildings too.
can you tone down that black to like a gray?
Well, in the architectural committee, that was,
That was
they
what
wanted,
they
they
wanted.
wanted it more the other way.
I see the conflict here.
They wanted it black.
Yes, okay, well, I'm not on that committee. So Dr. Bernie, you're good with what you see there?
Yeah, we like this the best of many options.
I'm okay with it. I like it.
I'm just afraid it'll get chalky.
Yeah, we had
I
that
mean, if it
concern.
does,
and-
Greg and I live right there, we're going to
Yeah, you-
make a note of that very quickly.
It will be.
Well,
There'll be phone
we've
calls.
been an EPAS contractor for 25 years. I promise you it won't get chalky.
Greg Morlock, I think we gotta fix the ordinance number on here. There's not, it should be B, and it
Well,
doesn't.
it can't be B because I've got one on.
It just says 041123, which was the police station.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, no, this is B, yes.
It is B.
Oh, does it
It
say
is-
it on
it's-
there?
it says
Okay,
B
it
or
just
yeah,
doesn't
we're
say
good.
it on the iPad. Okay,
The hard copy is correct.
got it.
Okay, well, I guess that's my feedback. If you guys are good with it, then I'm not gonna put up a stink.
I'll make a motion to pass.
Wait a minute.
Oh, I'm
Remember,
sorry.
it's being amended, so
Oh.
you need a motion to amend it first,
Okay.
according to Ryan's representations.
I will make a motion to amend ordinance number 041123B
By Ryan's
with Ryan's
notation.
notations.
There's been a first. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, there's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 041123B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Okay.
Oh, did you not vote?
I
Let me
didn't.
just
Oh,
read it.
passes 4-0. Sorry, one abstention.
So
No,
this-
actually,
Sorry.
you can call for the nays. Nay.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Roll call. Yay.
Brian Bernie,
Yay.
Larry Longman,
Nay.
Scott Jones,
Yay.
Brandon Williams.
Yay.
Okay, that was on the amendment. So the motion to amend passed. So this is ordinance number 041123B as amended on its passage, and ordinance amending ordinance number 121410, the zoning ordinance for the town of McCordsville, Indiana.
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance number 041123B as amended.
Second?
It's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 041123B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Roll call, please.
Greg Brewer,
Yay.
Brian Bernie,
Yay.
Larry Longman,
Nay.
Scott Jones,
Yay.
Brandon Williams.
Yay. Okay. Passes. 4-1. Okay. Request for an amendment to the McCord Square PUD located alongside the east side of County Road 600 West between West Broadway and County Road 750 North. Staff requests a continuance.
Yeah, we would request one more continuance. We are still working with the potential user that's necessitating this amendment to the McCord Square PUD. We need some more time to tighten up some loose strings on this. We will be back next month because we do need to take action prior to next month because that is the termination of the 90 days since Plan Commission action.
Okay. Request to amend the town of McCordsville zoning ordinance number 121410 is amended. This is the second reading. Ryan, do you need to tee that up?
Yeah, so, oh, thank you. We did attempt to make some changes to this based upon the comments last month, so I'll be brief and then we can kind of open up to some questions. We previously had different definitions for vape shop and smoke shop, and we have essentially combined those two and made them the same to kind of, again, equalize those items. And then we added some additional language to cigar shop to allow the other things that were permitted above in vape and smoke shop to be incidental sales or minority of sales in a cigar shop, as well as including some very general language about indoor air quality. And then we added a definition for cigar bar, which was a big discussion point last month, and also include a definition for it, and again, a general statement about indoor air quality. And that's really the substantive changes to that. I would just add, we kept the language regarding the indoor air quality very general on purpose. All of these uses are special exceptions. And so ultimately, for any of them to move forward and be approved, BZA has to take action upon that. And that's where we see that discussion of the indoor air quality being discussed, because it's going to be very different if you have a shop that's its own building versus a shop that would be in a strip center, where we'd be much more concerned about indoor air quality and how it would affect other tenants. So instead of trying to define and regulate and standardize all of that, make them all special exceptions and let the BZA address those on a case-by-case basis, depending upon the exact situation.
Question. Okay, so this is not the ordinance that the Plan Commission held the public hearing on and made the recommendation. It's been amended, right? Or
It has been
It's
amended.
being asked to be amended. So the statute says that you have to refer it back to the Plan Commission for their approval, disapproval, recommendation on that before it comes back to the council for final approval.
I mean, we just amended the Morningside one.
I'm sorry,
We just amended Morningside.
that was the PUD ordinance.
Yeah.
We should, and I apologize then, because I was thinking about the zoning. But anytime you get a recommendation from the Plan Commission and the council wants to change it, it's only on the zoning recommendation, in terms of the zoning code. It's not the amendment for the rezoning like the PUD. But the zoning code, 608, I believe it is, says that if you're amending the zoning code and the Plan Commission sends a recommendation, the council changes that or wants to change it, it has to go back to the Plan Commission for approval.
So the council can make no changes to it.
They can not make any changes initially. They have to send it back. If the Plan Commission sends it back and says, we don't like those changes, it comes back to the council, then the council can make those changes. Independent of that. It's section 608,
I was not aware of that.
3674-608.
So we're gonna take no action on this
Well,
until,
you're gonna just refer
we're gonna
back.
send it, we need a motion to send it back to the
I
planning
move
commission.
we refer ordinance, the zoning ordinance amendment ordinance, amending the zoning ordinance 12-1410, back to the Plan Commission for review of the proposed amendments.
Second.
Been a first and second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay, going back.
Are there any other changes the council would like
Yeah,
to see to
that's
direct
right.
towards the Plan Commission, so that when we come back next time, hopefully we're there one way or the other?
I mean, I was the one that had the issue last month. I'm okay with this language.
At this time, any other old business that we might?
We got a couple. So we all received an email, I believe, from the library board about a name change. Do you know if that actually happened?
Yeah, it'll be on next Tuesday's meeting, so they were I went to the last library board meeting, they were ready to vote on it, and then at the last second, there was one particular board member that wanted to hold off until we let our elected officials know that that was going to take place. And so they held off 1 month, and that is on the agenda for next Tuesday, of which I will also be attending. The name changes from Fortville Vernon Township Library to Vernon Township Library.
That's proposed. Yep.
It's a slash.
Yeah.
But there is some concern about the historic nature of the name and it being a Carnegie Library and letting go of the past, so.
Understood. So on that same notion, is there anything that's happened with the potential identification of a site for a new library?
Yeah, so they technically still have 3 sites in play. However, at the last meeting, I strongly encouraged them to not continue on one just because we felt it didn't make any sense. And frankly, after listening to their discussion, you know, as a developer, you're looking for a reason to eliminate one of the sites, and there was a lot of reasons to eliminate one of the sites, but they still wanted to go back and do a couple due diligence on it. So really, they've done layouts and fiscal analysis on the 2 sites, one in McCord Square, one at the Vernon Township Library. The big difference there is if it was in McCord Square, it would be a brand-new build from scratch. The Vernon Township Library, the first phase would be a renovation of an existing building, shared parking already in place. So there is a cost difference between those. We don't have a ton of details on it yet, and internally, what I've suggested to them is build what you want to build, put the numbers to it, and if there's a gap, let's talk about the gap in that. But don't just eliminate one site because of a cost difference, have the conversation, but make sure that you're not also skimming down one project because you think it's going to cost more. Find out what the cost of what you want to build is going to be. And it's also my understanding that either one of those, they have a debt limit cap of about 9 million, which was more than I thought they had actually. That would come through this board as well at some point. However, that only allows them to build in phases because they estimate they need about 30,000 square foot in total build out, but phase one would be 12 to 15,000 from what I'm hearing. I haven't seen the official presentation, so I'm going to go back and continue to promote our site and the need for it in McCordsville, and we'll see where it goes.
And you say that's next week?
This next Tuesday night, it is actually moved, thank goodness, to the Vernon Township offices. Because if anything's true in this whole situation, that library needs more space. Because I was tucked in a corner of what they called a conference room, which was really just a cubby of all their offices. So the fact that I think several representatives from Fortville might be coming as well. So there's needed more space for public.
Okay. And then one other thing was
It's Tuesday at 7, by the way.
Sorry?
6:30. I better check that.
Commissioners
GMO.
MOU. Yeah.
We are on the agenda for May 30th at 6 p.m., correct? For the commissioner and joint session to
Yes.
present the MOU?
Yep, they put us on the joint
They put us
session.
on at 7, I think. It starts at
Yes.
6:30, but we're on at 7.
7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I will be there, and I know Tim will be there, and Ryan, so anybody else is more than welcome to join.
Library's at 6:30. My apologies.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other old business, this time? Okay, we'll move on to new business. In front of us, we have a resolution 050923, approving a declaratory resolution economic development plan and establishing the McCordsville Cityscape Economic Development Area in the order of the McCordsville Plan Commission related thereto. So, Tim?
This is the third step in the process of establishing a new TIF area, economic development area and allocation area. This was proposed last month as the declaratory at the redevelopment commission. It then went to the plan commission. Plan commission order is attached in the back of your resolution, as is the declaratory resolution. If approved this evening, we will put out public notices as well as tax impact statements to the overlapping taxing units, and then we will have a public hearing and a confirmatory resolution at the next redevelopment commission meeting. And is that the last step in not only establishing the TIF area, but the bond, and we already did the bond process, correct?
Proceedings will be done with proceedings at that point, unless there was some kind of amendment we needed to come back to the board.
Happy to answer any questions.
And I'm happy to read by title only.
We would be too.
I will make a motion to read resolution number 050923 by title only.
Second?
It's been a first and second read by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes.
Resolution number 050923, resolution of the Town Council of the Town of McCordsville, Indiana, approving, number 1, a declaratory resolution and economic development plan of the Town of McCordsville Redevelopment Commission, establishing the McCordsville Cityscape Economic Development Area, and number 2, the order of the McCordsville Plan Commission related thereto.
I will make a motion to pass resolution number 050923.
Second?
There's been a first and second to approve Resolution 050923. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Congrats.
Thank you.
All right, next item of business, ordinance number 050923, approval of amendments to the employee handbook. I will turn this over to Tim.
Yeah, so we started diving into the handbook, which hadn't been fully revised since 2008. I think there was a minor revision in 2020. Couple minor. So we started diving over time, federal regulations change, federal laws change, some of our ordinances numbers change, some of the references, a lot of the references in the police department that uses, what's your? Lexipol change, so we walked through the entire handbook this time, and so this reflects a majority of that, which is mostly updating a lot of those references, adding language. In particular, one I like to point out, the military leave policy was significantly out of date in our current handbook, so we're now in compliance with federal regulation. The only thing we did not change, because we're taking a little more time on it, does not reflect any of the time off policy for employees. We are still working on that. However, your handbook is supposed to be reflected in your salary ordinance, so we had to update our benefits that we offer, our days off that we offer. All that has to be in the handbook and the salary ordinance. So everything's basically in line minus the time off policy. I know there's been a few emails of some things we need to tweak and work on, but our intent, because of what's coming up in the salary ordinance with the restructuring of the police salaries, we needed to get this approved, a majority of this is approved, minus the time off policy, so that we can move forward on the salary ordinance this evening, because it's more time sensitive. And then our intent is over the next couple months to finish up that time off policy, make another amendment with all the recommendations and comments that we received over the last couple days, and then come back and do a clean up, finalized version of this. So this will get us in a majority of compliance with the policies and procedures. We also added policies that were missing of new laws and regulations that have come in place, such as updating our social media and things like that. So happy to answer any questions or defer to Paul, because he's my detail man.
Well, there will be a host of things to discuss in here, and I think this has been vetted at least by the several subcommittees, and we need to get the ball rolling here to get what we have in place to use it. And as we go forward, we can collect our market basket or picnic basket full of amendments and hash those out individually as the issues require.
I will make a motion to read ordinance 050923A by title only.
Second.
There's been a first and second read by title only, ordinance number 0923A. Or, I'm sorry.
I've lost count of the letters, I'm sorry.
Sorry, 050923.
This might be C?
No, this is actually, this is
the first one.
This is the I read the wrong one. It's 05.
I have it written wrong on there. I have 2023 for some reason.
Right.
But
Okay, so it's
ordinance
without-
number 050923.
Thank you.
It was the handle.
So there's been a first and second read by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, passes 5-0.
Okay, this is ordinance 050923 on first reading, and ordinance to amend Title 3, Chapter 31, subsection 31.01.
We'll make a motion to approve ordinance 050923
Second.
On first reading.
on first reading.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve on first reading ordinance number 050923. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Motion to suspend the rules.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
There's been a motion to suspend the rules. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
So this is ordinance number 050923 on its passage, an ordinance to amend Title 3, Chapter 31, subsection 31.01.
We approve ordinance number 050923.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 050923. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. Next up, salary ordinance amendments.
Ditto my previous comments.
At this time, I'll give Chief, since the majority of the ordinance, you want to kind of go over just what you presented it to the Finance Committee on your reasoning and then.
I'll do it real quick.
Yeah, quick version.
I'll do a real quick high-level summary on it. So, once again, I know we, first of all, thank you for considering this tonight. I know we seem to be revisiting this quite frequently, but last year, late last year, early this year, a couple communities in Hancock County made significant changes to their salary ordinance, which then again kind of trickled back to us. What we tried to do in this particular rendition was again to address the, I guess we'll call it the bottom half or the bottom 2/3. There are no changes to my salary or Major Bells, and even as you get to the more tenured officers, their changes are very minimal compared to what I'd call the bottom half or the bottom 2/3. So we're really trying to, as we develop that those new officers and those new assets, trying to make sure that those people are compensated to the point where we're not getting to that year 4, year 5, and then they're leaving. I don't know that if this is going to stop that, but we're hoping to make them think about it a little harder before they do it. I do think that we have a very strong benefits package here, and I continue to try to educate people about their total income versus just their base income or what they see actually visible in their paycheck. Some people are receptive to that. Some people maybe don't see that value. Is there any other, without getting too specific and going into a little more detail? Cumberland and Greenfield both had substantial. Cumberland's was in the papers like 24% or some thing that they went to. Our base is moving up to 60. Is the round number. It's very important for the clerk's office to work in hourly numbers for hourly employees, so you'll see only the hourly number posted. We'll talk the bigger numbers in groups because that's what they see other departments do and what they publish versus the hourly number. And then, of course, we also made a small adjustment to our special services. We did 4 previously. We're going to pare that back to 2. I do see as we grow, and Tim and I have had some of these conversations in other meetings, is that if a quote-unquote, like detective would be a good example. If I come up with a detective that's their job, it doesn't really make sense to give them a special service as a detective now that they're assigned to that duty full-time. So if your job requires you to have something, it doesn't make much sense for you to then pay them on top of what they're already assigned to do. So we'll start to see some shifting and adjusting of those things as that pertains to those individual jobs as we grow and as we add those positions.
And I know one of the things we talked about in the finance committee, the way somebody might say, well, how are you paying for these? A lot of this is coming from already non-used budgeted officers' pay. So we're just basically we know we're not filling those positions this year and probably not even all of them next year. So that's really where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'd say 2023 is definitely not going to be an impact on anybody else's budget line items. It's going to come out of existing budgeted officer line items. How that affects 2024 is yet to be seen. Obviously, I've already started that process, but we are not deep enough into that yet to understand how that will affect the 2024 budget and asks for that. I'll be quite honest with you at this point. I'm more concerned about can I order enough cars or find enough cars to put enough people in, because there's no point in hiring people for a car to put them in. So right now I wasn't able to order 23 cars. So now I'm on the hunt right now to find out when 24s become available, and if they become available, how soon I can get them.
Okay.
Just one comment, this is all vetted through the McCordsville Police Commission as well, and they'll be happy if this goes through.
I just want to point out that we're not robbing the employment of new officers to pay for existing employees. It's just that we can't get the new officers. So since we can't get them and can't have them and won't have them, and because of the time involved, that does free up the funds that had been budgeted to pay them when we thought we could have them.
Yeah, and I would add, I think this is ultra important to retain the officers that we have currently.
It's a commitment. I mean, it's a commitment. We understand. Listen, there's no point in having a first-class town if you don't have first-class officers out there patrolling and taking care of them and safety. So you've got to pay for that, and you pay for quality and you pay for that experience. So I think it's the right move. I think it's going to help us in both, I think, recruiting and retention. So I'm in favor of that. Now, the other thing that I think, though, just bring up that pertains to the salary ordinance, and I'll let Ron speak to this a little bit, is this also got vetted through the finance committee regarding increase for certification for CDL drivers. Is that, you want to talk about that just real quick, Ron?
The state has really made it difficult with the CDL license now. If you, you don't have them, you have to take class. And we sent one of our employees to class for 2 weeks. It's a long period, plus to pass the CDL test. But we decided that CDL drivers, in the ordinance, it's a $96 an hour raise for CDL. And we currently have 4 people with CDL license.
And how's this going to compare to surrounding communities in terms of how they pay public works for CDL license?
How do they work?
How's it going to compare? Does this get us competitive or with other, like Fortville and New Pal and those guys that are CDL?
Yes,
Okay.
this is, actually,
It puts us.
I checked, go ahead.
Okay.
You have-
Puts us slightly above Fortville, not in line with Hancock County or Greenfield, but it puts us on the lower end of the middle where we never want to be the leader, but we don't want to be the last one.
We don't want to be last place.
It's a good step forward for us to encourage those certifications.
What
but we're not
equipment do we have that
encouraged.
requires a CDL?
Right now, we just have one Peterbilt.
The Peterbilt with the
And
plow?
the new truck that we've ordered.
So we'll have 2.
So we'll have 2 then.
Okay.
For the wastewater,
Yeah.
this was in a matrix years ago. Right now, we currently have 2 people that are certified. Steve is a class 4, I'm a class 2. Mark had his class 2 license. So to offer our guys incentive to go take their tests, we are offering extra pay, and this to get the class 2, class 3, or class 4. And this ranks within Fortville, New Pal, and I think it's Greenfield. Greenfield actually, it's all included into their ordinance, their salary ordinance, what they pay them. We do not have that. So it's an incentive for our employees to move up. And we will be needing operators soon.
Right.
Operators in the state of Indiana is really hard to come by now.
Yep.
The other is the MS4 coordinator. We have one right now, which is Nick. But if Nick decides to leave us or step down, we want to have this on the books to move somebody up.
Any questions by council?
Nope.
I forgot to ask, do you guys have, is there an item that you're here to speak on, so I don't bypass it?
We realized it was last week. I just,
Oh.
we spoke about it, so I was gonna speak to you.
Okay. I didn't want you to think I forgot about you, okay?
Thank you for considering.
Yeah, all right.
Be patient for waiting
Okay, thanks.
You might be here for a while. I'd be happy to call you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Really do.
Okay, I gave you my email, and I don't know if you ever sent me anything. I didn't see it, but.
See, I sent you one last week, but I'll email you again tomorrow. We'll set a time up.
Just didn't know if you were here to speak about the salary ordinance or Public Works Commission or some of these other riveting things that we have. All right, so any other questions by council or concerns?
No, sir.
Need a motion to approve, or read by title only, I think Greg would prefer.
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's been a first and second to read ordinance number 050923A, salary ordinance amendment by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Okay, this is Town of McCordsville, Indiana, ordinance 050923A, an ordinance amending ordinance 021423, and ordinance 121322B, the 2023 salary ordinance.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 050923A.
Second.
There's been a first.
On first reading?
On first reading.
On first reading.
Second.
As amended. There's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 050923A on first reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second. There's been a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
This is Town of McCordsville, Indiana, ordinance 050923A on its passage, an ordinance amending ordinance 021423, and ordinance 121322B, the 2023 salary ordinance.
I move that we approve ordinance number 050923A.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 050923A. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yes?
On the ordinance names, we've passed a number of them. Is this A or is this D or the?
This would be A.
This is A
because
the confusion, all the old businesses were from last month's numbering, so.
04.
Oh, this is because this is first reading.
Yeah, this is a 05 ordinance.
Yeah,
Okay.
all new ones start with this month, so we have.
So we're starting to name. No,
Yep, we'll start over.
Start a whole nother list. But that's a good catch.
Thank you again.
That was a.
Could get
That
confusing.
was 050923.
Oh, okay.
So we don't put it, we don't put it.
Yep, that was the first one.
Yeah, it's the first one.
Then we have the resolutions.
You're gonna miss all this.
Okay. Oh, all right. Next order of business. Ron, wait.
I said thank you, Ron. I said thank you.
Okay, well, you're welcome. You guys are welcome. Chief, I know you're on vacation. You sticking around or you?
I just actually want you to stick around for the person policy discussion.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to the establishment of a Public Works Commission. This is ordinance number 050923B. Tim, would you like to cover this?
Yeah, so this was clearly established at some point. It's probably it's probably in the minutes somewhere. We just can't find where it was established. We can't find the record of it. So this ordinance makes it official and puts it into our code. And it basically reflects everything we're doing today. It just makes it official in this way that we're actually in the code. We can reference it. And this came up because when we redid all the boards and commissions, and I was cross-referencing our ordinances and state references to who's supposed to be on what board, I could not find any documentation to the Board of Public Works whatsoever. And we looked pretty hard and pretty far back. So. We just wanted to make sure this is more of a cleanup than anything else.
So the composition of the current committee's correct? Like the town engineer and employee?
We changed that a little bit because of when I came on, because I'm not a resident, but so we did it by positions for several of those, because a lot of it's dealt with the engineering and the public works side. So.
Okay.
That's how we're structured today, so.
That's what I'm asking, so you don't have to boot anybody and get new people?
No, it's exact, yeah, it's correct.
Okay.
We have a council liaison and at-large and 3 by positions.
So, everybody's good with that membership that's listed on section 1?
Yes, sir.
Motion to read by title only?
I move we read ordinance 050923B by title only.
Second.
Second. Sorry, but we'll go ahead, Doctor. We'll go ahead. I like it. We're covering our bases. There's been a first and second to read by title only. Ordinance number 050923B, as in boy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
This is ordinance number 050923B on first reading, an ordinance establishing the Public Works Commission and setting forth the powers and duties thereof.
I move to approve ordinance number 050923B.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 050923B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Move to suspend the rules.
Second.
There's been a first and second to suspend the rules. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
I move to approve ordinance number 050923B.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 050923B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay.
Efficiency at its finest.
Well done.
All right, I'm moving, yeah, very good job there, you too. Glad you're starting to work together after all these years. We're going to move on now to ordinance number 050923C, amending Title 3, Chapter 33.03, the purchasing policies.
Yes. So our purchasing policy hasn't been updated for a decade plus, maybe longer.
At least 22 years.
22 years.
It never needed to. You're not allowed to buy anything.
Correct. So it needed to, and we've run into, specifically with inflation and everything, you'll probably notice on your different boards, committees, the invoices are the same every single month, because all of those are just over $5,000 for most of them. So the intent isn't to make purchases that, are hidden from the council or anything. You're still gonna get them on your reports. We just don't have to delay payment. So we've run into a problem where we're having to hold invoices for a month to get them approved and take them through the whole process. And the reality is, looking around to other communities, 10,000 seems to be more of the threshold now. In addition, we added an emergency purchases. We had an emergency purchases, but it was so low you really couldn't fix anything. So and this is mostly for public works. If we have a lift station go down or something happens at the sewer plant on a Saturday or a weeknight or something, we're not there, they need to be able to make that emergency repair and get it approved. Good feedback from the finance committee was just kind of have some checks and balances to that, so they still need to reach out to, there's kind of a line there, start with town manager. If I'm unavailable, the assistant town manager, if he's unavailable, the town council president, to make sure you're getting some approval to move forward with a purchase like that. And then all those expenses obviously come back to the town council afterwards. So you're going to see all this anyways. Small purchases, that goes up from the current 5,000 to 10,000. So for instance, on your consent agenda, all those invoices would just be paid and show up on your report versus having to do an approval of those these days. There's one carve out there. The other clarification on this is, if it's already been approved through a contract, we can go ahead and pay the invoice because you've already looked at the contract, you've already approved it. So we don't need to bring stuff back that has been approved through contract as long as it's within the guidelines of that contract. The other one that we put in here special was regarding chemicals for the operation of wastewater treatment, which was one of your consent agenda items. Those can run upwards of 10,000, a little bit more, so we gave them a 15,000, but they do not have a contract in place with them, because as I was talking to Steve about this morning, they don't really want a contract with them because if they can find a lower price for those chemicals, they'd like to be able to shift and get them from a different location.
But the overall amount for the chemicals has already been approved in the budget, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
You're
You're
just
within
saying,
that guideline. It's just that one instead of bringing it back, having to wait the delay, that was a special carve out because they don't have a contract. If they had a contract, it wouldn't have been a problem, but that one doesn't have a contract. Yet it's a monthly expense for the sewer.
So Ron, just for clarification, let's just say we budget annually, I'm just gonna throw a number, $100,000 a year for chemicals in your department. This gives you flexibility if you're shopping around each month. You have the ability, without coming back saying, well, I found a different vendor that can give the same chemicals for $8,900 for the month. You don't need, this gives you that flexibility.
And we do that constantly.
Okay.
Especially in chemicals.
I know I'm a stick in the mud tonight, but let me just mention that while this authorizes them to make purchases up to the dollar amount, you have a purchasing policy about when to request quotes and
Right.
you mentioned it. So
Correct.
what you just cited is he could do that, but he would have to get 3 quotes for that to get the lower price, or at least compare that. So I'm just saying, you gotta follow both
Okay.
policies. This authorizes them to make the purchases, but they still have to follow the purchasing procedure for quotations and
Sure.
so forth.
Correct.
So
This is a
I just
part
didn't want that
of-
to go,
Good point.
maybe be misunderstood, so.
Section 3 basically says if it's the policy we already follow, just at 10,000 versus 5. So if it's over 10, you need to bring it to your board or commission or town council and get approval. Same thing goes back to what Greg's saying, follow the purchasing policy at that point.
Right.
And then section 4, I'm actually going to pass this over to Mark.
And this is Mark's section. We call it the Mark section.
Well, all this one does is give some discretion for staff for contracts that are where you have additions to scope beyond the original approved amount. It sets kind of limits on what that is, and we didn't want to make it overly complicated, but we set it as $10,000 or 20%, just to try to whichever's lower, just to still give the same oversight intent with that. So
Could you give an example of what is
it's
scope
a change
addition?
order section.
it's a change order section, and it's kind of similar to that. So
However, we have a change order policy.
yeah, this is different than that. So
This
I'll
is
give an
different than
example
that?
of, say you had a design contract for $80,000. If there was some change of scope to that, staff could approve it up to $10,000 or 20% of that, whichever was lower. So that's kind of an example of that. So that's along the lines of saying, if it's a minor change, we don't have to wait a month to the next council meeting to make that minor change.
Like we need to change this surveying scope or something like that because we realized we didn't capture what we needed to. It's probably $1,500. We don't want to have to wait a month to delay a project because you might not get your surveyor out in that time.
Well, we need to do something like this if we want salt to arrive in time for this winter.
Well, I think a lot of it, this was your concern, Mark, when you brought it to the finance committee, was for those types of contractual subcontracting things when you're doing design and those kind of things that might fall outside. They're already doing the work, and then we might need to expand the survey, or there's just certain things that it's part of the work, part of the intent, but adds a little bit more to the workload kind of thing.
Yeah, the idea with this is just to make sure that we're not stopping progress unnecessarily for a minor change.
Right. See Larry's thinking here, so I'm going to open up any
I'm
questions,
just,
concerns.
I'm like that example, like the wastewater treatment plant. We also want to make sure that our designer didn't let us down or something like that. There's someone who needs to be culpable is going to be culpable as well, even though you got to keep it moving.
Yeah.
Might be somebody that is going to get their own change order. Back charge.
Permanent.
Yes.
Well, one thing about the chemicals we used to buy, we didn't spend over $2,000, but we've increased the plant and it takes more chemicals.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it's continuing.
And to your point, this has to be approved by the department head and then authorized by the town manager before it's made, so we can ask that question.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Checks and balances.
Yep.
Yep.
The thing I like about this, ultimately, a lot of this falls back, on the town managers. So they're, I hate to say it, but it does.
It does.
It does.
It really does.
When people ask, well, what are you, there's some accountability there. Yeah.
What's he doing?
No, but if somebody says, well,
Oh, wait a minute. Look at section 6. In the absence of town manager, the assistant town manager.
Who's that guy?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
well, then you get down there, then they both could leave, and guess who it falls on to? You guys really want to scapegoat.
That's right.
And it is our responsibility to know, is it in the budget? Is this necessary? Whose fault is this? Why are we adding this scope? So,
Yeah, because that'll be the questions I ask.
Well,
if
it
there's
adds
something like that.
procedures. It adds a
We're aware.
There's a
Something on a contract. That's what was bothering me was if it's on a contract. But I know, I've been in Mark's position where you can't wait for 30 days for a council meeting. You got to keep
Well, they'll still get
progress
the change
going.
order come through. You just don't stop it.
Yeah.
You authorize it to go ahead, but you're still gonna see the change order when it comes to.
and they're still reviewing whoever's signing they're still seeing the invoices and that. So we have different eyes on everything. So, and Stephanie definitely sees it. So, I think it's good policy. Scott had a lot of good input on it too, so appreciate his input.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Any other questions by council or comments?
I move we read ordinance 050923C, purchasing policies amendment by title only.
Second.
There's been a first and second to read ordinance number 050923C by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
This is ordinance number 050923C on first reading, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 33, Section 33.03 of the McCordsville Code of Ordinances.
I move we approve ordinance 050923C on first reading.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 050923C on first reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Suspend the rules.
Second.
There's been a first and second to suspend the rules. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
This is ordinance 050923C on its passage, an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 33, subsection 33.03 of the McCordsville Code of Ordinances.
I move we approve ordinance 050923C.
Second.
There's been a first and second to approve ordinance number 050923C. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. Moving along, we have the first we've ever had of the tax abatement compliance form.
Yes, so we have three outstanding tax abatements. This is the first time the CF1s have come before the council, so to set the stage of what we're looking at, the abatements have been approved. This is the annual compliance over the 10 years for the abatements. We have 2 real property, 1 personal property. And this is a snapshot in time of compliance. So this is what they have invested, what they're in the other Southwark case, how many jobs they have, what the salaries are, what the investments were compared to what they promised us on December 31st, in this case 2022. So the first one I put up here was a little, and typically in an abatement, just to be clear, you're always looking at the single year. So if for some reason you rejected one, you're not terminating an abatement. That's a whole nother process. You're just not accepting this year. But typically in an abatement, you give them a little ramp up time or whatnot. Now, in the case of Nyer, which is the first one we're looking at, you'll see we didn't actually require any salary or employees because it was a spec building. Interesting. However, I called them up on this because it's their first year. You'll see they're at their SB1 statement of benefits, which they said they would spend is $60,210,000. On December 31st of 2022, they had spent $44,401,000. Now, what's different about this particular one is they don't have their certificate of occupancy, which is typically when you file this. So I called them up and said, "Are you sure you want to file this year? You're a little bit early. You really should file for next year." However, what happened, some circumstances, some in their control, others not, and then with the tornado this year pushed that back. But they got a pretty significant partial assessment this year because the building was built on January 1st.
Yeah.
So they're basically fully assessed. So they said, we'd like to start early. We've already spent our $60 million. You'll see that reflected in the next year's. And we anticipate getting our CO at the end of this year. So we'll be in full compliance by the end of this year. From a town standpoint, I'm okay with that because we're starting the clock on the 10-year abatement and they're not fully completed and fully assessed. So we're actually, in a way, getting a little bit of a savings at their choice. So I marked it as property is in substantial completion. I gave you a little paragraph about what I just explained, as well as the fact that, they did have a setback this year with the tornado, but they anticipate to be fully operational with the CO at the end of the year. They still have a lot of work to do to get there, and that they will, by next year, CF1, that $60 million should be hit the threshold, or we got to consider
Now,
other action.
we did have well, there was a comment in staff today that, did we verify this has been, everything's filed correctly and all that?
I need to check. I don't know that
Well,
these have been filed at the county.
yeah, I can't tell you. I mean,
So we're
that's
going to
their-
find out when
that
we
is
turn in
their
CF1 if they
responsibility.
say, what's this for?
Right.
Then I'll have to go back and get the ordinances and,
You can call Nicole at the auditor's office, she can tell you. Real property CF1s go to the auditor. Personal property ones go to the assessor, although they're supposed to communicate.
Yeah.
But it's only our job to count the local entity to either make a finding that they're in compliance or not and to authorize you to do that.
Is it our job to file this?
No, no,
Okay,
no.
so that was the question we had at staff today. We were not
Well,
sure these have
you-
been
you
filed.
have
So we
to-
sign it
If
and
you
give it back to
find,
them?
if you find that they're in compliance, you have to sign it. They have to get that to the auditor, but we don't have to initiate the
Okay.
document.
Correct.
And there's instructions on the back, which you'd be
Yes.
surprised how many people never read those, so.
Well, it says it's
they
optional.
never do.
It says optional for use by a designating body.
Actually, in Laporte, we never filled out the second page.
Right.
We just approved it. But
Oh, so you're
it's-
saying the first page is required?
The
but
first
second
page is
not?
required because that's what they're submitting as their official numbers, and they're signing that document to say, we have invested this, and these are real numbers. The second page is so that the auditor knows what to do,
And
or
auditor requires
assessor.
the signatures.
Yeah.
Approval of those.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of get pissy.
So if you find them in compliance, you just need a motion to find Nyers CF1 in compliance and authorize the council president to execute the same.
And Stephanie mentioned, she can't talk right now, her voice is gone, but it was, she has an email from Nicole that it was filed March
Okay.
13th, so.
Good.
So it is in the office. That's
Good.
good to know.
So what did you say, Greg?
Motion to find the Nyers CF1 for real property in compliance and authorize the council president to sign it.
So, seconded.
There's been a first and second for the council president to sign the CF1 real property. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. Moving on to the CF1 form for personal and real property for Southwark.
Same story here. They're in, real property, they've spent almost 17 million. They said they'd spend 13, and that they would have salaries of 7.2. They have salaries of 13.4 million. And then they said they'd have 200 jobs, and they're at 272 jobs. So they've met all the requirements there. And then on personal property, they said they invest about $1,114,000. They're well over 2 million, 2.2 million. So they've done all the investments that they said they would do as per their requirements to the tax abatement.
Are they in full compliance with our zoning now? I know we had some issues and that they didn't.
Yeah, the trash enclosure and gate is now installed, so I believe they're in 100% compliance.
Okay.
So you can do both on my motion if you wish.
Yes.
I'll make a motion for the town council president to sign the Southwark CF1 and the CF1 documents for the PP and the RP.
Second.
There's been a first second for town council president to sign Southwark CF1 for personal property and the CF1 for real property. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. Assistant, anybody else have any new business? All ones? Okay, Ryan, you're up.
All right, so.
Real quick before you. So I did take off there. Tim and I discussed, we were supposed to have a presentation tonight with all of the ordinances and the salary and stuff to get up to speed. We were doing on public safety and the impact on public safety. So I just asked him to remove that and we discussed it at the June meeting just because we were not really sure with how the salary ordinance and all that, and he was not 100% ready for the presentation. So we just I asked him to go ahead, I want him to be more prepared than not prepared. So if anybody has questions why there's nothing on there tonight, you can blame me. So, all right, Ryan.
Thank you. So we are, I probably sound like crying wolf, but we are, I believe, finally ready to start our comprehensive plan process.
Buy it.
Sure we
So we'd like to kind of get that started publicly in June with the potential wrap-up in December of this year. That does mean that we have started our initial sort of behind-the-scenes data collection and existing conditions analysis. And as a part of kind of sort of easing into phase one of this, we'd like to set the steering committee for the comprehensive plan. And if Excel would load for me, I would read off my list of who I've selected or would recommend to select, and it's not doing that. So I'm going to go a bit off memory here. But our thought was our recommendation for your review and consideration would be the town council president, the plan commission president, the redevelopment commission president, the town manager, a representative of Mount Vernon Community Schools Corporation, a builder developer, because we'll be criticized if we do not include someone from the development community on that. And then lastly, a resident, which we would propose as Chris Creighton, who is the governor's chief of staff and lives here in McCourtsville.
It's
NDOT chief of
I was gonna
staff,
say,
sorry.
you told me it was NDOT.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was playing
NDOT
it
chief of
down
staff,
if
big
he's-
difference. So that's 7 members. We are attempting to keep it fairly small as the guiding steering committee, but we will go out and seek other opinions and from different groups. So we'll likely have different focus groups that we go and seek information from. So we'll probably have a group that are folks that are more transportation inclined that we seek out engagement and feedback from, a land use group, utilities, we'll go out and reach out with them. We'll reach out to sort of major institutions in town, the churches, more input from the schools, include Geist Montessori, things like that. So we'll go out and do a lot of engagement at the focus group level, stakeholders. But that steering committee is to kind of, we want to, essentially staff will staff them. We will provide all of the information and have them guide our process and what ultimately that document ends up looking like 6 months from now.
Do you think we need to have representation from someone in public safety or healthcare? I mean, I wouldn't be opposed from somebody from Hancock Health or, or public safety of some sort. I just would think we might want to have that input.
Yeah, I like the public safety one especially because, and that could be someone from our police department. We could, if we wanted to engage someone at E911 as well on that. Either way, I think either representative would be great. That's a good ad.
I don't see Paul raising his hand, so that'll be.
Vernon Township Fire Department.
Well, it could be Vernon, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
No, it's the Vernon Township Fire, the trustee.
And I'm open to 2 positions on public safety
All right.
if Paul would like to do it as well. But Paul made a really good point. John Jocantis, who's the E911 director, is also a McCourtsville resident.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
there you go.
so you got a county connection, public safety connection, and a resident.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that would be good, just to have that input in it. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but
And Paul wants to be on too.
good. He needs more to do. Anybody else have thoughts, concerns, input, output?
You think you need a motion to approve that committee, Ryan?
I probably would
I think
prefer
you
it.
just need
Do you want
minutes.
to make it put in writing for it, or you want it?
No.
You want to get started.
Yeah. So I can just read out the list that we've
Yeah,
got.
read the list again,
Yep.
please.
Plan Commission President, Town Council President, Redevelopment Commission President, the Town Manager, a resident, which would be Chris Creighton, Mount Vernon Community School Corporation rep, whoever they would select, an E911 Director, Chief of Police. Yep, 7. You guys anything? That's it.
So,
Motion to approve.
Oh, and a builder developer, sorry, 8.
So I will make a motion to approve. What's that?
just as presented.
Steering.
Oh,
yeah,
as
steering
presented.
committee.
Committee is presented.
Mhm.
Second?
All those in favor of approving steering committee as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Only other comment I have for my report is that just to confirm publicly that we did reach out and speak with Lennar last week. I talked with their, I think he's the regional vice president, and they do not have an intention to make Somerton a build for rent community. They fully intend it to be a standard, typical for sale community. So good news on that front. The rumor we heard was just that, a poor rumor.
So the Fisher's home sign still up?
Thank you. What's that?
The Fisher's home sign, is that still up?
Scott, I want to know about the Fisher's Homes billboard.
They were issued Friday. So we started off with, once we saw the sign, we issued a notice of violation 15 days ago last Friday. And so when last Friday hit, we issued a notice of penalty, which is a $250 fine to them, and it gives them 10 or 15 more days to get it down. If they don't, we then take them to court over it. And the
That
court,
fine's daily, though, isn't it? Isn't each day a separate
I think it
offense?
is,
I
yeah.
think it is.
But it's a minimum of $250. So we've sent them that letter. I did get a response finally on Friday saying if our sales partner doesn't take it down this week, I will go out there myself and take it down. That was from the land guy. But it's still not down, and it's Tuesday. So I'll send them their email tomorrow reminding them of the daily fee fine and see if that doesn't speed things up. But it is not permitted in the terms it has no permit, and it is far too big. It's probably 3 times the allowed size. I haven't measured it, but it just eyeballing it, it looks about 3 times too big.
So the developer's spending, what, they're building like 354 homes on the Hampton Walk site?
Something like that, yeah.
So they're spending what, 30, $40 million in our town? And they can't have a sign.
They can have
Seems like they're, right, but.
Compliant one.
A compliant one.
Yeah.
That one.
It seems like, the sign that they have is what, about 4 by 8?
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Bigger than that?
It's a big one.
I think they ought to be able to have, if somebody's making developments like this, I think they ought to be able to have one major sign. We should probably make an exception for them. It just seems to me to be hard.
Well, I think if you
But
make.
they haven't requested it.
Correct. They're permitted to have a temporary sign, 32 square feet, 8 by 4. But that sign did not get a permit and is, again, it's probably 3 times that size. It's probably close to 90 square feet, I'm guessing.
I think we ought to carve them out some kind of exception for, have some standards for one sign that they can have for a development.
If they decide to come in and ask for
If they
one and
ask
get
for a
the
variance.
proper
Yeah, they can always
permission.
ask for a variance in the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yep.
They've not done that. I mean, Town Center is probably investing double that amount.
There's some enormous sums of money being invested in our town. It seems to me to be a little bit harsh to not allow, one sign, one major sign for advertising.
Yeah, but how long do you allow that to be up there? I mean, if it takes them 8 years or 9 years to develop, do we want a big, huge billboard and then all of a sudden, not only do we all of a sudden get every other builder that comes in here and says, we want something very similar. That's my concern.
I don't know, 24 months.
Here's the other issue that we have to think about, and this all changed in 2015, and Greg, jump in where necessary. But in 2015, there was a Supreme Court case called Reed v. Gilbert, and it was in Arizona. And that Supreme Court case changed sign law across the entire country, including ours. We amended ours afterwards. Prior to that, you could look at any sign and look at its content and decide, okay, that's a real estate sign, that's a freedom of speech sign, this is a leasing sign.
I remember that.
You could do all that, and so you could create different standards, and we could have a standard for a subdivision temporary sign for leasing and real estate. That could be a different size than any other temporary sign. We can no longer do that. So if you give any temporary sign to be larger, every temporary sign has to be larger. There's some ways of getting around some of that, and we've done that with our zoning ordinance. With restrictions, and you can tie it to zoning, which helps you with some of that. We've gotten more creative in the 7-8 years since then. But my point being, our hands keep getting tied more and more, and we can't get creative as much as we used to because of that Supreme Court case. So it makes me nervous to give a bigger sign to Hampton Walk, because we're gonna have to give it to everybody else too.
Unless they ask, I mean, and if they come to the BZA grants, so that's,
Correct. Yep.
that's complete, but that, they need to go through the process. They can't
Correct.
just, I think the thing is, that, you know, it's not ask for permission first, it's ask for forgiveness later. And they just, you know, I think,
Yeah, if they had came in for a permit, we could have said, hey, that sign's too big as proposed, you're welcome to go to the BZA and to seek a variance. They didn't do any of that. They just plopped up the sign, and that was it. And now we've spent we're going on close to 20 days of trying to get it down.
Have you had complaints?
Yes.
Okay. How many? Do you know, or
Oh,
dozen?
No.
Okay.
Probably 2 or 3.
From other builders by chance?
No, not other builders, but that's what comes next is they all
Yeah.
start doing the same thing. I mean,
Okay.
if one sees it and they get it,
They're gonna imitate.
all of them are going to do it.
Okay.
And so
I think that lies the problem, you know, you gotta make it the same for all.
Yeah. Maybe I have one more item just to pitch out there, just so everyone knows, we've been getting some complaints about high weeds and grass, specifically in meadows at Sagebrook. We sent our staff out today a second time to kind of take a look around, and we counted about 50 houses in violation of our high weeds and grass ordinance.
wow.
Whoa, that's a lot.
So we are going to take the tact of not issuing a violation right away to those homes. We are going to send each of them a friendly letter reminding them of our rules, and we're going to do our best to blast those rules out to the entire town as well through the Friday blast and other means. Hope that we get some voluntary compliance, and then next week, after it's done raining this weekend, if whatever yards are not back in compliance after our friendly letter, we'll then start the violation process. So,
So walk me through that, because you got a person has a yard right now, they get that friendly letter. They don't do it, how long till the second letter gets to them?
that is not stipulated in our process, but our plan is to have those letters mailed out tomorrow, which means they'll hit Friday, Saturday, and then probably mid next week, we'll go out and take our second assessment and see how many are in compliance. And at that point, when we would send the letters out, whoever's still not in compliance, that gives them essentially 15 days to get their yard in compliance. If they do so within that 15 days, there's no fines, there's no penalties, there's nothing. You just got a nasty grant from the town.
Yeah.
If you don't bring it into compliance within 15 days, then we start a similar process to what we just talked about, which is fines can accrue, and eventually we could take it to court.
And attorney fees.
And attorney fees.
Okay, so somebody goes that process, their yard's left uncut, you know, and all that. We can cut it?
We can. We have not ever taken that step
Okay.
yet as a town. I know Greenfield does that. They just go out and mow it. And they send you the bill for it.
In Marion County, they just go out and mow it, and the property owner gets a bill for $350.
Yep. Speedway does the same thing.
Greenfield does something similar to that, and they charge quite as much,
No,
but it's
not
something
that
similar.
much. They contract it and they just
Yeah.
bill the contract.
But it's you still get a bill.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something to think about. If we continue to have this
Well-
level of problems,
Yeah, I guess that's my question is it, can we do what other counties are doing and just go mow the darn thing and send them a bill, or do we have to go through a court process?
right now we have to go through a process, 'cause that's where our code reads, but we could change our code.
Well, and just because you send them a bill doesn't mean you won't have to go through a court
No,
process. 'cause
but
nine
it's
times out of
collection
10
process.
9 times out of 10, if they're ignoring the letter, they're gonna ignore the bill.
The collection process then allows us to put lien on and that kind of thing, correct?
Now, typically,
Once you make judgment, yeah.
typically it goes on the tax bill in Marion County.
So, maybe, if, I would say if we were only dealing with 1 or 2 houses, okay, but if we're up to already 50, then maybe we ought to look at that. What are your guys' thoughts? Relooking at that policy and mirroring what Greenfield and Speedway and the rest of it.
Honestly, I'm kind of worried about the BFR neighborhood coming. That's something we're going to be into. Well, I don't know. That's a property management company, I guess.
Yeah,
They do.
so they'll know everybody going for them.
I don't know. We could always lien their property, I guess, and wait to be satisfied. 3 years after it
Well,
gets foreclosed on.
We have some specific language in that particular BFR PUD that gives us some additional power, if I remember correctly.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at two different processes. The one is, if you don't do this, we're going to take you to court, which could be who knows how long, versus the other surrounding communities have a different process of, in a policy, well, we're going to just mow you and then we're going to bill you. And then like Greg's point is, well, they might not pay. Then there's a completely different process going through the collections aspect of it, where you would get you get the judgment, then you put a lien on and.
similar to what we do with the sewer, right?
Right.
Don't we
But there's
lien
a
people?
statute that allows you to do it with the sewer. There's not for the grass.
Oh, there's not.
So how do those other municipalities get away with just an
They
ordinance?
just do it.
Just do it.
So do they use their own personnel to mow it, or do they contract it out?
Greenfield's not one I'm familiar with.
Okay.
They contract that out, they send the bill, and then if it's not paid, it's a small claims case, so that's much simpler
So the
than
town
than
sends
a
the bill,
code
or the
enforcement
contractor
case
sends the
was-
bill?
Which calls for
Assume the
injunctions
town,
and
because the
all that.
contractor won't do it unless somebody pays
Right.
them.
You know what, but that is concerning though, because if, like, I'm the contractor, the town's going to pay me,
Yep,
and the town has to worry about collecting that money from
that's right.
the person in the violation. Do we end up losing money to prove a point?
I mean, this is no different than what HOA boards deal with all the time too. So I mean,
Right.
we're just a town-wide HOA board.
I should say, I mentioned this because this is obviously a heightened case with as many as it is. We don't normally have this many in neighborhood. My guess is, this is a guess, I don't know, but that HOA's not been turned over to the HOA yet, it's still in the builder's hands, because once it turns over, I suspect those residents will be a little bit more quick to resolve their own high weeds and grass issues in their
Okay,
neighborhood.
so is this something then that maybe we as a town need to reach out to the builder?
Well, they could help us with it if they could help us with it, but ultimately, it's ours to enforce.
Because until they turn it over to the residents, they are the HOA.
They are the HOA, and it would be helpful if they were monitoring it, but ultimately, it's ours to enforce.
Well, in Marion County, the building inspectors, same people who enforce broken glass, exterior not secured, gutters falling off, holes in the roof, code violations. They issue the same type of citation for grass, and they come out with a ruler, and they find grass that's higher than, I think, 12 inches. They send a letter, and
That's what we do.
30 days later, they inspect it again, and once they issue their citation, contractor's called to cut it, and the charge goes on the real estate tax bill and accrues penalties, same as unpaid real estate tax, which compound every 6 months. It gets expensive fast. If it's not paid when the property turns over and is retitled, usually in a tax sale, those amounts are collected at that point from the new owner.
Well, this situation definitely raises, do we need to relook at our policy? Because who knows? I mean, with all the developments we got coming in, this is not going to probably be the last time. Maybe not as many, but we're still.
Yeah. This is, I think this is an anomaly, but I wanted to let you know just because of the sheer number of them, in case you get any phone calls about it. But we'll take it through our current process and handle it as best we can, and if we continue to see a problem, we certainly can come back with some proposed amendments to our ordinances.
Sounds good. Okay, town manager's report.
Yep, I'll do the opioid thing last, just a couple updates first. One, I want to clarify the library comment. So the two sites they're looking at is the township property, where the township offices are in McCord Square, not their current location at all. They will be moving one way or the other from their current location. So just want to clarify that. The Indianapolis Airport Authority has put out the RFI for the property off of 600 North.
Across from us.
So we did receive a copy of that today, and I have not looked at it yet, but we appreciate them getting us a copy of that. And that's important to us because in there is language about the extension of Aurora Way, as well as potentially a buffer area on the northern side off 500. So we'll keep track of where that goes. I believe I thumbed through it real quick, and I think responses are back in June, or required back in June, so. So there's some progress there on that.
Right.
This is Public Service Recognition Week. So we're doing some things to recognize all our public servants here in the town of we were just talking about it. McCordsville. You had me going on high grass and weeds, and here we are.
Hey, we can't get to one council meeting without a slip up by you or me.
I had it last week.
Oh, yeah, Larry.
I had last week's with Chief
So,
Elder.
Did you go
wherever we're at.
I did.
Oh.
Yep.
McCordsville.
Welcome.
It's a good thing there's a giant sign right behind you that I was staring at.
McCordway.
Couldn't miss it. So, but yeah, we appreciate everyone's hard work around here, and 1 week's never enough to show that appreciation. But we do recognize everyone's efforts and appreciate what they do. And this is just a small token of our appreciation over the course of the week. And again, appreciation to both. Yeah, everyone.
Yes, thanks
Monday
for the
was shirt
shirts.
day. We all got a new shirt with the logo. Today
Thanks
we had a
to Nikki
carry-in
for reaching
breakfast.
out.
Tomorrow there'll be some snacks passed around, and Thursday we'll be having pizza for lunch. So
And Friday will be diabetic testing, right?
yeah, Friday we're off.
Insurance exam.
Insurance,
So,
yeah.
as you can tell, the way to their hearts is through food. So nothing else works. Just appreciation to the Vernon Township Fire Department, our police, Fortville Police, everyone else who responded. Not only Friday with that poor, horrible situation. It seemed to be a tough weekend, and we've been busy with accidents and everything else. So our public safety's putting in a lot of time and effort and handling a lot of difficult situations. We appreciate them, all while Paul's on vacation. I'm just kidding. And then
Still doing here.
I think that's all I got on the report, other than the so we have been approached. As you're aware, we've received some opioid settlement dollars. Can we make that bigger? Yeah, sorry. And we had been approached by Keely Buttram, who is on the board of directors of the. Sorry, I have too many things going on right now.
Talitha Coombe.
Talitha Coombe,
Women's Recovery.
which is a not-for-profit women's recovery center. It's located in Greenfield. However, it covers the entire county. They have 9 beds. They're working on a 10th. It is a 6-month wait period to get in there, and they have asked us if we would consider basically passing through our restricted funds to their organization, which is an allowable use and fits all the requirements that we need from the federal guidelines. And so I'm bringing that request forward to the town council for discussion. I have included on the agenda information about the opioid settlement. There's 2 accounts. There's a non-restricted and a restricted. Over the course of so over the course of, I believe it's 15 years of payments, we're going to get unrestricted payments of about $13,000, $13,009.65, and then of restricted payments is $30,355.86. So we get more up front, and more being it looks like $6,000 restricted payments in 2022, and another $1,143 in 23. It's not significant dollars. It has a lot of restrictions on it. This is an allowable use, so we wanted to bring the request forward. I also included on the agenda, though, a list of all the things you can use that money for. Per the settlement agreement was the second document in there. And third document was information about this particular recovery house. Start that with the
I know
comments.
Keely Buttram was also county councilwoman, and she's been supportive of has reached out and has been supportive in us pursuing the MOU and with the county, and I know she's been supportive of what we're doing up here in McCordsville and been definitely a advocate of ours. And she asked me to point her in the right direction. Paul, do you have any objections?
I'm not educated on, other than the obvious, I haven't looked at the specifics of what the can't be used for. Again, I'm not familiar with this recovery house, but I mean, obviously, with the general information that's here, I mean, that seems like that would be a good use for that money, since it's opioid based, and I'm assuming they're recovering from some kind of drug abuse service.
And Major Bell in the staff meeting today didn't feel like that it was a significant enough sum that they felt he would have uses for it. So, but I want to make sure.
It decreases every year over the 15 years,
Oh, okay.
It gets
so
small.
it gets smaller to the point where we're. I believe let me see if I have it in my notes. What we are passing through doesn't even sponsor one person going through the program. So it's one of those, every bit helps. It's an allowable use and a good program for the county.
And I think it goes back to what you said earlier, Dr. Murray, about pregnant women. And
Well, I gave this some thought today, and it's not a lot of money, but it is a source of recurrent funding, and it certainly supports the types of donations that we're being requested to give for not only this halfway house, but also for Zoe's place. I also feel that we have needs that we need to consider first off in-house. Like, I believe all the police officers now carry naloxone.
Yep.
And your naloxone is covered, you don't get it free, right?
We actually got the batch we have now, we got free from the health department, actually.
But in the future, you're gonna have to purchase it.
We haven't ran out of that yet. We have a quite substantial amount, and since they increased the expiration date on that, we're going to use that even longer. But I do not know what a dose would cost. We are unfortunately using it more than we have in the past. So I would have to research on that.
And there's training associated with using it. They have to go.
It's very super basic.
Yeah, so I think the cost of training and supplying naloxone to our own police force should be priority number one. Number two should probably be the EMT's use in Vernon Township, since we also pay a substantial portion of Vernon Township fire territory fees. After that comes, I think, donations to centers like this, which we could prioritize. And then when we look at the various needs and know what the budgets are, we can kind of total them up. There's probably some need in the school system for some funding for taking care of children who are perhaps in an abusive situation because of an adult drug user at home. The counselors probably know about that. We probably ought to talk to Scott Shipley or Jack Parker, see about that. So there's a number of uses which I think are the highest priorities. Our own PD coming first.
EMS is not an option. They have over $900,000 in the EMS fund, so I think they can afford whatever they need. So that
anything that they don't spend comes off of tax bills.
I mean, the amount of funding for this, I mean, just the administration alone, I feel this is a better use of our funds by sending it to an organization that has an immediate need versus sit here and trying to figure out where we're going to spend $1,200, $1,300.
Well, the unrestricted could go straight to rainy day fund.
No, can't.
Unrestricted can't?
No.
So what's the difference between restricted and unrestricted then?
You can use it for particular purposes, but the rainy day fund is unappropriated money, so I think you would have real difficulty with the Board of Work, or excuse me, the Board of Accounts.
So what could we do with unrestricted funds then?
Well, they give certain guidelines as to what you can, or suggestions as to what.
Yeah, that's, I think, for restricted.
Again,
They got a use here that I think is what you can do with restricted. I don't know about the
well, there are core
unrestricted.
strategies of those that are listed there as well, so. again, it's up to you, but I would not suggest, I think that's gonna create a big problem for Stephanie with the Board of Accounts, putting that money in the rainy day fund. Not to mention that's federal money, and they can audit that and find you,
Well,
find you for that too.
Totally on this. Is there a way that you could give some type of authority to the finance committee to make final approval or recommendation?
Probably a recommendation, not a final.
Yeah,
They're not
yeah,
official.
we could make a
So we're looking
recommendation.
for approval tonight, though, right?
Not necessarily. I'm just presenting, I was requested to present it, so up for discussion. They're welcome to vote on it or not vote on it.
The reason I say that's because I can actually get you information about what our current supply is, but I do think we have substantial supply now. I just don't know what the current cost is. I don't believe it to be substantial, though.
When it hits that expiration date,
I don't
you'll have
think
to
there's any
toss it.
harm in waiting a month.
No, I think that's not a problem, having to go back through Finance Committee and vet it to make sure that, you know, and discuss other, you know, take note of Dr. Bernie's other ideas for it and see what we feel and get some more input from Chief Casey.
Because the only thing I can think of that would directly impact us would be the NOx loan, but I honestly think that we probably have sources for that. So there's more than one company. The company come out and trains us.
That's all going nasal now.
Yes, that's what we have currently. The company that comes out and trains us, we actually send, when we were using them before the health department gave us what we have today, we were just filing a monthly report for them, and they would just backfill us. So I don't know if they were getting theirs off of a grant that they were applying for, but I'd have to get with Major Bell on that, because he's the one that's completely in charge of that, and how he sets those doses out for officers as they use them. And then every time we use one, we do a report on that. So it's easy for us to grab that detail and find out what that information is. And then EMS-wise, my understanding is they mostly are doing that intravenously. Does that sound accurate?
That's the prior way of doing it. It's, in a more acute situation, it gets systemic availability in the body much more quickly if you can give it intravenously. So there's nasal, and then there's the IV, depending on what kind of responder, what kind of training you have, what kind of drug you carry. That's just the naloxone part. There's many components to this, and the thing I don't really know is Vernon Township Fire Territory a political subdivision?
Yes.
Would they be recipients of these funds then too?
They would have had to join the
I think
case.
they were municipal entities.
They
I'm
might not have
100% sure.
been,
Fortville would have gotten.
Fortville would have gotten,
Yeah.
but how about Vernon Township Schools?
You had to opt in.
Mount Vernon Schools.
I don't think the schools.
I don't think schools did. I think it was just municipalities.
Well, I can
State
find
of
that
Indiana
out.
got
I
the
can find that
majority
out
of
from
it,
Jack
and
Barker and
the
see what their
legal
needs are.
My only recommendation is with as little of money as this is, to your point, I think we find a use for the federal reporting purposes. This, I don't want to break this up into like 6 different uses so that Stephanie has to do all the federal reporting for $500 here and $200 here.
Well,
and
we could pick two, like we could split it between Zoe's place and the recovery
Not
house.
sure, does Zoe's place qualify?
Zoe's Place would not qualify.
Well,
It's a
they-
forensic interviewing
Yeah, I'm not sure they would
organization.
qualify.
It doesn't deal with
Well,
drug
that's the
overdose.
reason I asked her if she had looked at the list of uses and had any that she thought they qualified for. I think they do, but I don't know for sure.
So we need a motion for Finance Committee to make a recommendation?
Or you can motion to approve the use as presented.
Yeah, it's whatever, it's
Whatever you
council's
guys want.
discretion what they'd like to do at this point.
I move
can
that we
send it
refer
to
it to
the-
Finance Committee for discussion and report back to us.
We do not have a second, so.
No second.
Who's second?
I think for this amount of sum, but I move that we just go ahead with donation to Talitha Coon.
Second. All right, there's been a first and second to donate the opioid settlement to the Talitha Coombe Recovery
Point
House.
of clarification, are you recommending just the restricted or restricted and?
It's up to you, the full amount or.
The entire
I'll
15
amend
years
my-
or just 1 year?
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to be the full amount for what, for the 2 years?
Well,
Yeah,
it's
15.
Oh, I'm sorry.
however long you want to do it. Right now, we've collected 2 years, but it's a 15-year settlement, so we can do this yearly, or we could do it.
as maybe
I don't know if
let
they
the
can
next
restrict
council decide.
future
I'm gonna say
councils.
first year. Yeah, first year funds to Talitha Coombe House. Would be my
22 and
You need to
23.
do 1 and 2.
Because we
you've already
collected
got
2
22.
Okay, so sorry,
Oh.
22 and 23.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Second.
All right, there's been a first and second to allocate our 2022 and 2023 opioid settlement money to the Talitha Coombe Recovery House for Women. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay?
Roll call, please.
Greg Brewer,
Yay.
Brian Bernie,
Nay?
Scott Jones,
Yeah.
Larry Longman,
Yay.
Randy Morris.
Yay. All right, motion passes 4 to 1.
I think that motion demonstrated how hard the accounting could have been.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Yikes.
Tim, anything else under town manager's report?
Not at this time.
Okay, next thing is approval of vouchers.
I move we approve the vouchers.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the vouchers signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next meeting, June 13th, 2023 at 7 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned.
I moved to adjourn.
Yeah, I heard it. Nice. We're good.
So I'm thinking for Sally's place.
No. Okay.
You know, I
Yeah.
think that, two grand a year. And
Right.
just there you go. Then we were consistent. What are your thoughts?
I agree, because we funded them the first time the lady came in and asked. We funded them. We gave her something.
I think it's 25.
She'll come.
Yeah. If we're gonna support the county organizations, that's probably a good precedent.
Schedule off
So,
the